Recorded live from random secret studios all over the Delaware Valley and the United States.
I'm the capo. He's the prez.
And this is Sons of Ben, the pod. So, Adam, congratulations. We have made it to episode number Andrew Tony.
I was going to say Andrew McCutcheon, but I'm happy that we stayed with the Andrews. That was good. That was good.
20. So episode 22, and I feel like I always say this, that I'm super, super excited about our guest, but I'm actually almost fangirling about this guest because I'm not going to go out there and say he's an American hero, but I will say he's an American treasure. So this week, we've brought to you, live from our pickup of Union Happy Hour, Mr. Alexi Lalas, U.S. Soccer Hall of Famer and a proud alumni of the Rutgers Golden Knights. Oh, they're not the Golden Knights. They're the Scarlet Knights. I got my USC thing. Yeah,
Jeez,
Scarlet
man,
Knights.
Only like you got to get your tri-colored knights, or you got to get your colored knights together. Come on now.
I'm just bitter because I didn't get offered a scholarship to Rutgers, so that's why.
Oh man, New Brunswick was not calling.
Oh,
That's
this
exactly
would have been
what that was.
Rutgers, Newark. I would have had to go to. That's where the men's volleyball team was.
Was
at
it at least the law program?
No.
Oh, damn, man.
But
That's rough.
enough about my past failures. Alexi, welcome to Sons of Ben the pod.
Thank you, guys. That's a hell of an introduction. My goodness, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to be here with you guys to talk about what's going on and off the field. I had a really good time last week with some of your brethren and on a Zoom call. It's been established and well established that the people of Philadelphia, including the Philadelphia Union faithful, like to drink. And it's only been confirmed again on this pod. So let's have at it.
We don't even need a pandemic
harsh
to
winters
drink.
and rough summers. That's all we do is drink here.
Yeah. So I wanted to get a little bit in the past because I didn't know all this. But Alexi, you're a Michigan native?
I am. I grew up in Michigan. I grew up in the suburbs of Detroit, and I grew up playing soccer in the way that a lot of kids have grown up over the years. Mom and dad coaching, and orange peels and juice boxes at halftime, and travel teams. And obviously being from Michigan, where it's the law, I also played a lot of hockey, and actually at times even much more hockey than soccer. So that was my sports type of background. I'm a Midwestern guy, and you mentioned Rutgers University. I had never been to New Jersey, let alone exit 9 off the turnpike in New Brunswick, when my dad put me in the car, drove me 16 hours out, dropped me off, and said, good luck. And I plopped into a very, very different type of environment than I was used to and grew up in Jersey. But went down to South Jersey, went down to Philly. I remember seeing, God, I saw all sorts of people down at the Spectrum, right?
Yes.
I saw Def Leppard in the Round. I saw Queensryche. I saw all sorts of different people in the late 80s. And the early 90s down there.
You got that beautiful stadium. Rest in peace.
I know, huh? Boy, that was old school
and
old.
Oh yeah. That was old in the 80s. Let alone it lasted to the mid 90s. It was, yeah.
When did they knock that down? Like 08? Because I remember the Phantoms won some Calder Cups in there in like the mid 2000s. Like they held on to the Spectrum for a while.
Now, do you make it back to Detroit often?
I don't have family anymore in Detroit. My family's different places right now. I still have friends, and every once in a while I'll go back. My travels have taken me all over the world, and now I'm talking to you from Southern California here in Los Angeles, and I miss the Midwest, or maybe I romanticize what the Midwest was growing up there. But I would go back every once in a while. It's always fun to go back and check out the old haunts and see some old friends.
Now my only question, because I'm a travel nerd, Slo's Barbecue. Have you been there in Detroit yet?
I have not been there yet. Now, you're a travel nerd in terms of actual traveling, or just the restaurants? Because like John Strong, if you ever want to get into a conversation about food, talk to John Strong. He is the most incredible foodie, and with our travels, one of the biggest withdrawals that myself and guys like John Strong and Stuart Holden and that I work with on Fox has been the lack of travel. I mean, our world was every single few days getting on a plane and going. And when that's just instantaneously just taken away, it's a very, very difficult type of of transition. But John Strong knows everything about food in every port of call. I cannot remember any of them. It's a really nerdy and kind of sad conversation oftentimes when you hear us talking about Delta lounges and how many miles we have. It's a very up in the air type of experience.
I am so
and as I
with
said,
you.
it is kind of sad, but it that's our life, and we love it. And that we don't have it now, it's challenging.
I miss the American Express Centurion Lounge in the Philadelphia airport like you wouldn't believe. It's like a home away from home. So, no, I know it's just with my 9 to 5 job, we travel a lot because we do conventions and trade shows.
Yep.
And anywhere I can go, I try to take, because traveling for work, you're away from your family and your girlfriend and your friends. It gets, so you need to do something for yourself, something selfish. Even if you're working 18-hour days, you're like, all right, I'm going to go find a great barbecue spot or a brewery or a distillery or something. So I always do that and take notes, and just so I can recommend places. But yeah, Slows has got an amazing orange soda sauce for their barbecue.
Oh,
And
nice.
anytime I've been in Detroit, it's like, got to go there. Have to.
Well,
hit
I
it up.
love what Detroit is doing right now, and having been back now a couple of times and seeing this, I guess, I don't know what version we're on, 2.0, 3.0, but we're always trying to make it something or return it to what its grandeur that it once was. And it's well on the way. I had a wonderful time. We never really would go downtown unless you had a specific place to go. And what it is right now, it's so much more vibrant and safe, and it warms my Detroit heart to see what that town is at least trying to become, and I hope it continues that direction.
Now, it's funny that you mentioned, you referenced Detroit as 2.0, and Devin, you're going to personally love this transition. You were an original MLS 1.0 player.
Yeah.
Because we keep saying
One of the
MLS is
originals.
in like 3.50 or something like that now. So my question, and it always kills me, because what the hell was MLS thinking when they named some of these teams? Like the
It's
Chicago
the 90s.
Fire,
I mean,
the Dallas
No.
we did
Burn.
things differently.
No, Dallas Burn needs some explaining. All right, I can live with a lot of the Mutiny, cool. Fusion, here for it. The Dallas Burn. How did they not just already see on the horizon issues with that one?
Was Book Depository taken? That's why they didn't
Yeah.
want to.
What were we doing?
I look, as I said, it was the '90s, and you had the Wiz out there that then turned into the Wizards, and obviously now Sporting, and so you had the Wiz. It was all over the place. There was very much of a bigger '90s feel, the colors, the day glow type of stuff, and that's why when you look at what DC United, I give a lot of credit to what DC United. I know it's difficult on this type of podcast to give them credit, but let's just give it to them right now. At least from the start, from a branding and imaging perspective, they got it right. They saw a future where a more traditional type of approach would resonate, and they started with it saying it can't just be good in the 90s, it's got to be good in the aughts and now the teens and going forward. And so hats off to what they did, and other ones have had to adjust along the way because they became dated very, very quickly.
Now, Adam, what I
No
took
one has
out of
changed
that,
the Revs logo yet, though.
No.
They
It's
It's
still.
coming. They're just waiting for that stadium.
I hope so, because it is now. It in its inception was a very nice logo, but now with all the other logos evolutions that have gone here, it looks so Microsoft wordy.
Right.
It just
Right.
looks so 1.0.
Clip artish type of thing. Yeah.
Exactly.
see, now I took that one thing that Alexi said, was that he basically confirmed on this podcast that DC United peaked in the 90s. So I wanted to thank you for that.
Right?
They got one thing right, and that's it. So, yeah. Now, Adam, real quick, got to do a
Yes,
sound
sir.
effect.
What is that?
Well, beer of the pod. We have to shill for our sponsors. We're reminding everybody that Yards, 2SP, and the Larimer are friends of the pod, and usually, Alexi, they provide us beer for guests when they come into the studio. But
Right.
since we're in a pandemic, so next time you're in Philly, you just let us know, and there will be beer waiting for you from one, if not all three, of our sponsors.
What's it called?
Well, Yards is a big brewery in Philadelphia.
Okay.
2SP is a brewery that's probably 5 minutes from the stadium. And then
Okay.
the Larimer is literally right next door to the stadium. So we need 3 beer sponsors because that's how much the Sons of Ben drink. One isn't enough.
I would expect. I would expect nothing less from you.
As you've
Wonderful.
experienced.
Well, thank you to all of them.
So
In a
just
very
reminding
short career
everybody.
of a soccer team, we've needed a lot of beer.
Oh well,
It's fuel.
yeah,
Exactly.
it hides the tears. So now back to your past, because man, I read your Wikipedia page and I was fascinated at every turn of it. You know, some of this I knew before, but some of it I'm like, whoa, that happened. Now, of course, we know 1994 U.S. Men's World Cup team. Uh, Probably one of the most famous sports teams, I say, in American sports, let alone American soccer. But my question is this, and this is only my question, so you can't blame Devin or Adam. What's more annoying? You getting questions about that stupid denim jersey, or people thinking that you're Peter Horton from 30 something?
So I got the Peter Horton from 30 something. I got the lead singer of the Spin Doctors. I mean, it went on and on and on and on and on. Now, the faux denim thing, I will take a little issue in that while you're absolutely right that when it first came about, it was roundly lambasted. And I'll never forget walking into the hotel room where Adidas had set up a presentation for us. And here's what sports brands do. They tell you that they want your input, but they really don't, okay? Because it just makes it that much more difficult. So what they'll do is eventually they'll put you in a room and they'll say they want your input, but no matter what you say, this is it. This is what they're going with. So we knew that going in. We walked in and we saw it and we turned and looked at each other and Bora Milutinovic, our coach at the time, was kind of shaking his head. He didn't really speak English. And I think the collective reaction was, we better not screw this up on the field because it's only going to be exasperated by what we are wearing. Now, since then, the way that people view the faux denim has changed. It's become everything's cyclical, right? It comes back, and I think that there is a newfound appreciation for the faux denim, and without a doubt, there are a lot of U.S. jerseys out there that I can't remember or tell you about, but this one, it is seared, rightly or wrongly, seared in the consciousness of American soccer forever.
It was one of my favorite exhibits when I was at the U.S. Soccer Hall of Fame in Dallas. I was
That was
just
cool. They did a really
drawn
good
to
job down there.
that, and I'm going, oh my God, I hated that jersey, but oddly, it's just beautiful now. I don't know why, but it's like you said.
I get
like
asked about it constantly.
Oh, I can only
so I wish I had taken a box of them.
No, I mean that's the epitome of the '90s, though. Like that jersey is up there with all those other sports jerseys, like the Arizona Coyotes jersey, or like all these 1990s jerseys that are like so only could have been made in that era,
Right.
like
It's
no other
representative,
era.
right?
Exactly.
But funny you should say that because the other day I turned 50 years old. I can't believe I'm 50, but I turned 50. And my good friend and legend, name drop, Bob Lee, has sent me a jigsaw puzzle.
Yeah.
And it's a jigsaw puzzle about the '90s, and in it is that faux denim jersey with a picture of me. So it's
Yes.
it was really really cool, and it has become emblematic and symbolic of the '80s, all the good and the bad, the '90s, all the good and the bad of the '90s and what they were.
Oh yeah. Now after that, you got to play in Serie A for Paldova,
Yep.
and immediately they went to Serie B after you left, I think.
Yeah, it was scorched earth basically on my part. So no, after the World Cup, look, one of the reasons, guys, that I'm even talking to you today is because of the '94 World Cup. I lived the power of what a World Cup can do to an individual, and it changed my life forever. And I was incredibly lucky in terms of timing and all of that. And I milked it for all it was worth. And so one of the opportunities was to go to Italy. Back then, Italy and Serie A was very different. It was before the Bosman ruling, it was before the opening of the European community, and that was where all the prestige was, all the big players, all the money. And I had opportunities to go to England, Germany, and Italy, and there was only one place that I was going, especially being kind of the first person to go there and do that. I learned every single day that I was there, obviously playing against the best players in the world, especially as a center back, the best attacking players in the world. Every single team that you went up with was stocked with world-class players, learning a new language, experiencing a new culture, all of that kind of stuff. It was wonderful. It changed me not just as a soccer player for the better, but also as a person.
So you're saying you didn't make any money on side gambling when you were over in Italy?
I did no. There was no, I did. I tried to stay as non-corrupt. I don't even know if that's a phrase, but as I possibly could.
Specifically in the nation of Italy. I don't think that's actually
Exactly.
a
I mean,
phrase. Yeah.
there's a wonderful, long and storied history when it comes to some of the interesting things that have happened both on and off the field over there in Italy.
Matt likes to point out all the time that I am a Palermo fan because
Okay.
my girlfriend is from the city itself, and we just got promoted to Series C. So you can understand
Nice.
on after we were literally last year on the cusp of going to Serie A, but then, oh, hey, corruption. And then, oh, hey, we didn't file paperwork in time. So welcome to Serie D as a Phoenix club. But now we're climbing back. We're
Wow.
climbing back,
So when I got there, it was a very small. It's called Paldovo. It's It's in the north of Italy, right outside of Venice, and they had just come up to Serie A for the first time ever. And what was interesting was the area. It's a very it's a university type of town, and since they had never been in Serie A, all of the soccer fans there had their Serie A affiliation, which was Milan. And so now they were left with this decision to make because now their hometown had gotten to Serie A, but all of their history and their family and all of their rooting direction had been towards Milan. And I'll never forget when we played Milan at home. It was 50-50 basically. So it was a home game for us, but it was crazy because people had their affiliations that had been established over decades in life because they didn't have a Serie A team.
Oh man, unbelievable. So then you come back to the MLS, or well, the MLS starts, and whew, man, this list is you were a player, New England Rev, the Metro Stars, the KC Wiz, and the Galaxy. Was Nick Sakevich part of the Metro Stars when you were there?
No, I think Charlie was there at the time. Charlie Stilitano
Okay.
was still with the Metro Stars there as a player. When I came back years later to the Metro Stars as the president and general manager, Sakevich was still around there. So I've known Nick for years. But yeah, I traipsed along and went to different places and had very little success from an MLS perspective until I got west to the Los Angeles Galaxy. But I'll tell you what, that day when I got on the plane from Italy to come back in 1996 to start the league was one of the proudest days of my life. It was incredible. And I never forget a few months after that when that whistle blew. The Revs, our first game would have been down in Tampa against the Mutiny. There's the Mutiny, right?
Oh, yeah.
And that whistle blew. And you don't get to be part of something from the start a lot in life. And to be able to say that you were there from the start, something that's going to last not just your career, but well beyond your lifetime, that meant something to a lot of us that decided to come back. And to this day, I remain incredibly proud of doing that with a lot of other people, both on and off the field. But let's be honest, we were cautiously optimistic, but we were also full of a history that you guys know of, leagues and teams folding and a Wild West type of existence. So we didn't know how long it was going to last, and that we're in our 25th year, notwithstanding the craziness that 2020 has been. It still should be celebrated, and I hope we are celebrating because it is a hell of an accomplishment. Still plenty to go, but the pride that everybody feels for these teams and what they have come to represent for the not just the soccer but the community, I think, is well founded and should be celebrated.
And the evolution of the game and the league has been phenomenal because I've admitted publicly, privately, anyone that listens that I was an original Euro snob, MLS anti MLS. I thought it was terrible. Maybe it was because we didn't have a team in Philadelphia, so then I couldn't root for a DC or a New York, New Jersey team. So I was just anti until Philadelphia got a team, and then
Right.
just even seeing in the 11 years the evolution of the game and the level of play is just phenomenal. So yeah, it's definitely something to be celebrated. And as much as we like to make fun of Don Garber, he's done a really good job in 25 years. I mean, made a lot of
It's
mistakes.
still our thing. It's still our
Yeah.
thing too. It's La Cosa Nostra, right? It's warts and all, and we know that it's not perfect. But I love the ownership that you guys and everybody like yourselves take in the league, and obviously in your team, because it the American soccer community, we can be a pain in the ass, and we can be our own worst enemy, and we can get in our own way so many times, and we infight. But ultimately, it is about our thing. And I'm not just talking about MLS. I'm talking about American soccer in general. And it's it's something really unique, and it's always going to be uniquely American in the way that we go about it. And so that inevitable compare and contrast that happens sometimes, that can put up obstacles, and that can impede us from moving forward and concentrating on what really, really matters. And that's the people, and that's what we're doing. That's the things that we're creating in the cities that go well beyond that actual 90 minutes of play that happen. And that's where the love and the emotion and the passion, I think, derives from, that we see from you guys, from all of whether it's in Philadelphia or any other market out there.
Yeah, and the supporter culture has just been incredible. Like the Sons of Ben, Viking Army, the everyone in DC. Just we all meet once a year for the internet, the ISC, the Supporters Council,
Yep.
and it's just a coming together of like, hey, this is what we do, and hey, we do this, and this is where we get materials for TIFO, and it's not us against them. It's everybody like, how do we grow this thing? And it's just it's just great to see. But that does bring me to my one question, because I really want to know this. You being a musician, what song do you secretly wish one of your supporters groups would have just belted out for you when you were playing?
Well, I'm a huge '80s metal guy, and I love the band Rat. So anything from Rat would have been wonderful and would have been near and dear to my heart. Most of the time when people were taking any moment to yell anything, it would be mostly at me, and it would mostly be, let's say, a critique of either my play and or my appearance and anything else that might,
That's the nicest way I've ever heard
be a
it
part
said.
of me.
Yeah.
So there were some anti-ginger chants coming from stands, you think?
Oh, sure, sure. I mean, anything would be fodder out there when you're running around. But it comes with the territory, especially when you look like the freak oftentimes that I looked like running around there, running around on the field. But I love the unique songs that everyone has, and you mentioned the meetups that the supporters group have, and there are threads that bind all of you, and there's certainly some best practices out there. But what I love is the different way that the supporters group reflect their market. And their community and their culture, and it's not all the same, and that's a wonderful thing in the way that everybody sees themselves through the prism of soccer, but then there's the other prism of the actual city and the culture that you're coming from, and it's not all cookie cutter, it's not all the same. I know MLS often it gets criticized and people say it's manufactured or anything like that. Well, yeah, it's manufactured because guess what? We've started from scratch, and we get to make that history. We get to do those things, and there's not a lot. Like I said, there's not a lot of things that are out there in life where you get to kind of be on that ground floor and start it from scratch and make it whatever you want.
Yeah. Now, Adam, you
Yes,
you
sir.
heard it. So since you are the head capo, when
Yeah.
Mr. Lalas comes back to Philadelphia,
Yeah.
in the river end, we have to do a rendition of Round and Round for him.
Round and round. Look, I mean, I'm not going to say it's been actually replaying in my head ever since he mentioned the Rat as a band of choice, but look, it's crazy now that as a capo, you hear songs differently. Where you'll be like, oh, I've been listening to these songs my entire life, and they just like you listen to the beats and all this. And now you're just like, how do I fit the word union into this word? Like, how can I put Philly in here somehow? What can I get a bunch of individuals ranging from 20 to like 82 to sing this in unison together? And it is a gift and also a curse, because I feel like I'm in the Matrix and I'm just seeing like the trickle down numbers just keep going all day long, and it's like, can I make these chants? Can I make these songs? Can I do something with this? And it's terrible.
Adam,
Well,
so I have a question for you then.
Yes, sir.
Because look, you obviously have your hits and you play your hits,
Yes.
and so you got to know what your wheelhouse is, and from the people that you are directing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So has anything, because it's easy to say, well, we knocked this one out of the park and this was great and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
What was the worst one that you ever did? And it might have been, from a good place, and like, this is what we're going to do, and this is how it's going to happen, and this is, the chant, and this is where we're going to go. And it just, for whatever reason, just didn't work.
Okay, so I've tried like guy chants, like chanting the person's name. Name chants are difficult, especially since like the union are like champions of getting team players names that you're just like, I have no idea. Like the first
That's
time,
right.
like the first time you get Harris Medunyajan, and you're just like, what even am I supposed to do with that? How can I do anything? But like, so, and I still think this has legs, but it probably doesn't, based off the fact that I'm about to tell you this, is when Alejandro Bedoya came here to town, I had the longest time trying to figure out what the hell to do with Bedoya. Like, it just doesn't really phonetically go that well. But I went with that old kind of like big band song, and I was just like, Alley, 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 alley. And I just waited for the chorus. Bedoya, 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 Bedoya. And it went good. And then I did, because Bedoya is just Bedoya. But I did Bedoy and then Oya. Like I just confused. I used the last syllable twice to fuse and it was a disaster. People looked at me funny, and I was like, look, like he's the captain. You need to have a chant for the captain, but it's just like, I don't know what to do with your name, bruh. I just don't. It's rough, and it's on me. I need to be better is the answer to that. That's the only
It's all right,
solution.
you
I need
know.
to be better.
Even
Back to the drawing
obvious-
board. You'll figure it out.
Even
Right.
obvious ones, former captain, Mo Edu. We had Motown Philly queued up ready to go, but the guy
He was
couldn't get
out
back
for a
on the
year and a
field.
half.
Yeah.
Like he was like, and I love Maurice Edu, and I even tell him this. Like I used to send him messages on Twitter, and he would just be like, "I'm ready." Like when he was doing his comeback series, like I sent him a Willis Reed gif. Like I was like, "We're ready for this moment." Like come back, Mo Edu, because like at the time the Union had what I thought was just this dirty midfield, and I'm like, if Mo Edu comes back, and even if he just plays center back, just that stabilization could make this team amazing. So you're just like, come back, Mo. And like this is when we had Charlie Davies, and we had Bedoya, and we had Chris Pontius. So like everyone was all buddies too. So you're just like, let's see this, but like on the field. And we had Motown Philly ready, and he was just like, let me not come back ever again. And I was just like, I respect that, but like when I'm prepared to just belt that out, I can't. It was rough.
Yeah, that was tough. Now, so back to the star of the show, the GM. Oh man, this hurts. San Jose, Red Bull, and of course the Galaxy. Now, I don't know how familiar you are with the Twitter world of the Philadelphia Union, but we have our own little celebrity called Union Hulk.
Yes. All caps, right?
All caps. So, guys, do I try to do this
Kind
in
of hard
a
to miss
hulky,
it. Okay.
Do I try to do this in a hulky voice, or can I do this straight? Because we did ask him if he had a question for you, and he was over the moon. We only communicate in direct message. We don't, meet face to face under the bridge. But he did have a question for you, and oh Christ,
You have
how
to
do
do
I
the
do
voice.
this?
You made me do
shit.
the voice when Kevin Kincaid did the podcast, so you have to do the voice now.
I'm just going to read
Yep.
you the DM straight through. So, hello, love.
Please.
That a big get. And Hulky thrilled for you. This what Hulky need to know. And Alexi never seemed to get the mention with this. But he got Beckham to MLS. That's some big swinging dick shit. MLS in 2007 was basically everyone lining up to sniff Landy Don's jock. Landon Donovan. Alexi went in there like a ginger beast and brought in Davey Beck. Can you ask him? Now he gets to the question. How insane did that Beckham experiment get from him? How little sleep did he get? Would there ever be something that seismic shift in MLS again? What would be the most Philadelphia version of him that for him? So that's from the mind of Union Hulk. So
Yeah.
I think you have
You
three
got some
questions. You
tea?
combine them into one.
You
So
got
you
some
never
tea
get
and honey
credit.
there, Maddie?
Wow, that's awesome.
So
That's
you
awesome.
don't
I
get
love
credit
it.
for Beckham.
Yeah. So, okay. So you mentioned the three teams. So I went up to San Jose with the Earthquakes, and the Earthquakes were in the process of moving. So, I was the president of all three, and all three had very unique and challenging situations. San Jose was moving. Ultimately, they went to Houston, so I was dealing with the front office and the challenges of that. Then I came to New York at the Metro Stars, which then became the Red Bulls. So that whole sale and that transition and that rebranding that happened there too. So that was a whole other challenge. And then I came back to Los Angeles with the Galaxy and the whole hurricane of David Beckham. you need three things in order to do something like David Beckham. First, and the most important, you need somebody that's going to pay, because we paid a boatload of money for him. So Uncle Phil Anschutz, bless him for everything that he has given to this game and to this league. He said, yes, we are going to spend, and we are going to spend the likes of which this league and other sports have never seen. Then you need somebody to have that vision on who to spend it on and how big. And that's where Tim Leiweke, who was the head of AEG, comes in. And he was the kind of person, and still is the kind of person that says, we're going to that mountain. All right. He's not going to tell you how to get there. OK, but it's important. And there's a value to a person that's able to recognize that that's the mountain you want to go to. Well, we're going to the Beckham Mountain. Nobody had ever been there before. And then you need someone to facilitate a mechanism in order to actually do it, basically have a road built. And that's a guy that a lot of people don't know by the name of Sean Hunter, who actually facilitated and worked to get the Beckham rule established, which has gone on to be that designated player rule. So all of those things were in place. And as I said before, it just brought the Galaxy to a whole nother level, the league to a whole nother level. But it was also incredibly challenging, and plenty of mistakes were made along the way. A lot of collateral damage, including, myself getting fired and others getting fired. But ultimately, they came out the other side, and the Galaxy was better off for it. The league was better off for it. And it just raised the profile both domestically and internationally of what MLS was. As far as to his question of what would the Philadelphia Union do, if the Philadelphia Union were to do something on par or the likes of which a David Beckham, first off, there is no other David Beckham, so that can't be done again. Even if you were to get Cristiano or Messi, that still doesn't bring as many people into the tent as a David Beckham. I firmly believe that. But if Philadelphia were even to do something close, it would be that much more impressive because, I don't need to tell you, we're talking about Los Angeles versus Philadelphia. I love Philadelphia, but what Philadelphia and what the Union is right now, both the perception and the reality, that would be something where that would be a complete game changer for the market, for the ownership, and for what this team looks like. And it would change the way I and so many others look at the Philadelphia Union if they were to do something big like that.
That's why we're relying on one Mr. Kevin Durant to use his international superstardom to bring some players in. Oh, but that hasn't been officially announced, though. Sorry.
No, I love that too. I adore media in that way where something can be announced a week and a half ahead of time, and we're just like, and the union are just like, look, we can't legally say anything, but you all know it's not even like it was on Bleacher Report. It's on like every people's front. It was on the front of the number one trending sports topic on Twitter for like 2 hours, and it's like and granted, it's obviously you're taking advantage of the pandemic because if this is like a normal sporting time, we would have 62 other things to be talking about even before the union get deeply into any conversation about sports. But I appreciate the fact that the union are now trying to do at least splash a little bit, get some investors in here, get some people that look like they trust the union, and maybe that'll raise the profile. But I'm like, I don't think Kevin Durant's going to get us players,
Oh, man. Well, if the Orlando tournament that was just announced has taught us anything or confirmed anything, is that there are no secrets in MLS.
None. Why was that so bad? Like, why did that get leaked like so many hours before everything else did, to the point where MLS was like, well, you already know, so.
Yeah, it was not secret or anything to anybody. And I mean, the amounts of leaks that come out, if you want to keep something secret, don't go to MLS.
No, not at all. Now, currently you're with Fox Sports, and
Yep.
basically, one, I got to give Fox Sports credit because I saw on the website that they got it right. Finally, they had a top 5 goals of the 2020 season. Adam, do you know who was number 1?
All right, so the season's 2 weeks long, right? So it's like yes,
they had 5 goals. Do you know who
5
was
goals?
number 1?
No, I mean yes, it was Jackie Gleason just hitting this thing from freaking 90,000 yards out. That was easily the best goal so far of the campaign. I mean, I was on a Red Bull podcast about 3 weeks ago, and that was like, they were like, that was the best game of the year. I mean, like obviously it was a short season, but like that was easily the best game of the year. Like we were up
awesome
at 10:30 at night on a Sunday, and they were just like, yep, in here watching the Union and LAFC go at it. That was fun as hell,
That was the last game. I mean,
Yeah.
it seems like a lifetime ago that I was sitting down with Jim Curtin and the guys from Philadelphia the day before the game, going through, and then that game. And like you said, even if it wasn't the last game, it would still live long in the memories of everyone because of how epic it was and the goals that were scored and the excitement. And if we knew at the time what was going to come, we would have enjoyed it even more.
Or put it at a time that wasn't 10:30 at night. But hey,
That's right. Did you guys stay up?
Oh yeah,
yeah.
we did. But work the next day was atrocious. But yeah, we stayed up. It was like, and I think everyone in like the Union fandom had the same exact reaction where we were like, okay, it's LAFC, it's 10:30 at night. The Union kind of starts season slow. That's kind of our MO. 2 road games in a row. We're gonna get whopped. It's going to be 4-1. Ain't gonna be pretty. Vela's gonna dance on us. So let's like check in for 15, 20 minutes, wait for the first LAFC goal, and then check out. And then the first Sergio Santos goal goes in, and you're just like,
Great.
I guess I'm here for this. And then the Gleason goal's here, and you're like, I'm here for the whole 90. I don't know how the rest of this has to go, but I'm here for the whole 90.
Oh, I promised myself I was going to watch the first half and go to bed. No, that went out the door right away. And like you said, that Monday at work was brutal, but it was worth it. It was so worth it. But so real quick, what's it like to work with such a handsome man like Mo Edu? The Philadelphia Union people really want to know, like, what's that experience?
He's
like?
gorgeous. I can't help
Right.
that. He's handsome.
So, yeah, I'm the old guy and the old grumpy guy at times, unless
But
JP's
that's my
around,
role.
And right, exactly. So when Mo and Stu show up, and they wear really really tight clothes.
Oh.
Like for me, looking at them, they look uncomfortably tight. Like I don't even know how they function, and yet I know I'm an old guy, so that's not the style or whatever. But I mean, it's just like ridiculously pegged type of pants and stuff, and Mo, he had a child recently, and so that kind of changes things. So I haven't talked to him in a while, see how that is going. I love Mo. I love the way that he thinks about the game. I love the way that he thinks about life. He laughs at me when I ask him about his clothing or other things that we're talking about. It's fun working with these guys because they are. I mean, look, I'm not ridiculously older than them, but they are of a different type of generation, especially when it comes to the MLS generation that they grew up in. And you mentioned the 1.0, 2.0. Obviously, I was part of that 1.0 time, and they were much more of that 2.0 time.
Yep.
And to see the way they think about the game and the way they think about life and the way they think about MLS, it's always fun for me and interesting for me to hear their perspective on things. And it informs some of the things that I do. Not like it keeps me young or anything like that, but it makes me better at what I do because I don't have blinders on all the time. And they challenge me to think about things in different ways, and that's what you want. That's what you want from a diverse group of people who think about the game in different ways. You want them bouncing ideas off it. We don't always agree on different things, but I love the stuff that he's done for us at Fox. Obviously, he's worked Champions League 2, and I don't know what that's going to look like when it comes back. But he's a real talent and just a real gentleman.
So no plans to use his tailor at any time?
No chance. I mean, if I tried to pull off some of the stuff that he and let's be honest, that he, Stuart Holden, that whole generation, Carlos Bocanegra, Tim Howard, when we see these guys on television, I mean, there has to be a sense of comfort in what you're wearing, and I just don't get any of that when I look at it. It hurts me to see what they are wearing, so I can't imagine them actually. And even just from a functional perspective, you talk about traveling. I would have no idea how to function on a cross-country trip on a airplane being dressed like that. It blows my mind.
You limit movements. You just limit extremity-based movements. You walk very uniformly.
I'm all for suffering for fashion, okay, but there is a limit, okay, in what they've done. And it just seems to get tighter and tighter and tighter.
Oh, yeah. And he pulls off outfits that I go, like the Joker in the Batman comics couldn't even pull off that suit. but he pulls it off.
Oh,
It's-
I went shopping with him once with Mo.
my God.
I went shopping with Mo and Stu. So we go into this place. I kid you not, and so Mo tries on a shirt, and I mean it is so tight, and he legit comes up to the front of the store where I'm just waiting because I'm not gonna try on any of this stuff because there's no chance I'm wearing any of this stuff. But I'm just waiting as he and Stu are picking stuff out, and he comes up to the front of the store and asks one of the ladies there, do you have it in the size smaller? And I thought that he was messing with her because it was so tight that he was, big guy in a little coat type of thing. And he was dead serious. I just could not even believe it. He took it to 11. I mean, I didn't even know it could go to 11.
Oh my God. Oh geez, I wish I was there because I can imagine it. Just talking to Mo a few times that I've gotten the chance to, I can definitely see that. Oh man. So
Gentlemen, it's high fashion. I don't know what to tell you guys. It's just different. We're
we're the grumpy old men. We don't know anything about that. Yeah.
No, it's okay.
So Alexi, my question: the Bundesliga is back on Fox, and it's been just great to watch, even though if it's been painful with the echoing stadiums and the fake sound getting pumped in. But is Fox just not saying, "Hey, we're going to have a big splash pregame, postgame show"? Like, what's going on with that? Because I think everybody's been wondering why isn't there such a huge presence? Because I think everybody'd be thirsty for it and all over it.
Sure. I mean, look, we'd love to be able to give the shoulder programming, the intros, the half times, and the outros, but there's a safety issue. All right, so our Fox offices here are not functioning, not even close to full capacity. That's number one. So just from a pure safety and numbers type of thing, that was not going to be something that we were going to be able to do. Okay. The second thing, and the reality is, we've had a wonderful time broadcasting the Bundesliga, and we know that we're going to pass it off to our colleagues over there at ESPN starting this fall. So they're going to take it going forward. So what we've done is we've taken the feed from Germany. I would love to be able to continue the things that I was doing, getting up in the middle of the night and then go. And I've had a wonderful time delving into the Bundesliga over the last few years with, people like Warren Barton and Ian Joy, and these types of people that are fun to work with, and also, have an understanding of what's going on. But, when it comes down to what is on our plate when it comes to Fox, obviously we have all the World Cups and the tournaments that are going on, and continue to do that, men's, women's, and we'll continue to do that. And Major League Soccer is a huge property going forward to us, for us. And we're gonna do everything we possibly can. But you got to pick and choose. And as you guys know, we're going through some very, very interesting times here, especially when it comes to the business of professional sports. And our business is televising live sports, and when they were gone for so long, and now we're seeing some come back online, which is great. I mean, this week, as we're recording this right now, La Liga has just kicked off, and will continue on. We got EPL coming next week, Serie A next week, NWSL online, obviously the MLS tournament that we'll talk about. All of those different things are exciting, but it's not going to be like it was, and we're going to have to make some real difficult decisions and hard decisions going forward, and hopefully we'll get out of this. But this is for real, and this is unlike anything that our industry has ever seen before. Yeah.
No, I'm glad you answered that, just because so many people were curious and asking that across the board and just figuring it out. So I love when we're able to break the fourth wall and let people we call it peeking behind the curtain. But Devin, just some Sons of Ben news. Just the only thing we have right now is Drunken Union Zoom Happy Hour is back for this Friday. Oh,
I got a jersey now.
And oh yeah, what size are you, Alexi?
I'd be an extra large. I mean, Mo would look at me and say I'm like a medium, but
Schmedium.
For me, I'm an extra large.
We're as a thank you for being on this, we're gonna get you the Union Zoom jersey. We're gonna send one out to you when it's
cool.
It's done. But yeah, Icarus FC did the jerseys, and we're doing pre-orders. So since you were an awesome guest on that, it's been something that everybody on Fridays been getting to jump on and just kind of get that sense of community again. So that's going to happen another Friday. I can't believe it. Adam, you'll probably be on till like 12:30 at night again, right?
Look, I actually have a life. And I know that
Wow.
my 12-hour union drunk Zoom chats, which only happened because me and JT just start talking about jerseys from 1914, and we're just like, we have to just sit down and discuss it. But like, legitimately, I might not be able to make it the whole 17 hours of the Zoom happy hour this week. These guys go for it, and I'm here for it most of the time. But no, I think the girlfriend has finally said, "Hey, it's still Friday, right?"
I know. I get the same thing now. I don't know if our friend, the balding gentleman with the blazer, is going to make it, but he did respond to my email that he wasn't ducking us.
You
So
you
that's.
keep promising this
I don't
gentleman.
promise. I don't promise. I just say eye contact.
Hinting. You keep hinting. I feel like people are going to get some boy who cried wolf syndrome coming out of you soon, Matt. I'm just
Maybe.
saying.
But now, so MLS news, we've been talking about it. The MLS is back. Now, who names this shit? They couldn't come up with something better than MLS is back.
Yeah, I mean, they hashtag it and bumper stick it and T-shirt it and do all that. It was interesting because I was listening to Commissioner Garber talk about this, and he was asked why was there no presenting sponsor, and he didn't really give an answer. I mean, if there was an opportunity to sell it, I think that they would, except I think that they were really concerned about maintaining the relationships and fostering them in these crazy times with the existing partnerships that they have when it comes to sponsors and broadcast partners, for let's be honest. So I don't know about you guys, but we talked earlier about how this was the worst kept secret and everybody kind of knew what was happening anyway. And yet when it was announced, I felt a real surge of excitement and joy that took me by surprise, because like I said, everybody knew what was going on. And just coming in to this talk, I just finished watching The Draw, which is it was just a simple little thing, but it meant a lot. It was great. So I'm excited about this. I'm cautiously optimistic. You guys mentioned the Bundesliga. I think the Bundesliga has kind of set that standard that everybody else is going to be judged against. And you're going to have to live up to it or even surpass it. And MLS is going to do something different because it's down in Orlando as opposed to empty stadiums. So I'll be interested to see how they dress it up and what that ultimate production does look like, because the last thing in the world that they wanted is to be considered minor league in that battle off of the field and that competition off the field with not just other soccer leagues, but also other sports that are coming back online too.
Yeah, I thought that was really important for MLS to get at least a week or two ahead of the NBA, because I thought that would have been a disaster if you had both the NBA and MLS coming back at the same time, both of them being in Florida doing like tournaments and all that, because it's just like the biggest thing, America is saturated. We have a lot of options, and we're getting more options by the day. Some of the fastest growing sports in the country is barely getting any representation. Like, when's the last time we've watched lacrosse? When's the last time we've watched a lot of the other sports that are still growing leaps and bounds in this country? But it's the thing that benefits MLS is, and this is why the reason why we don't go to the European schedule in my eyes is, you don't have as many eyes distracted during the summertime. You can actually get your product out there and people kind of absorb it, not just here but abroad. You're the main soccer option for many countries in the middle of July, so that does help tremendously.
And they avoid that juggernaut that is the NFL too. That's very important. Now, I do have some breaking news. I promised this to Devin and Adam. I did find out where the teams will be housed in Disney World. They're going to be at the Dolphin and Swan, which are Marriott properties. That's where they're putting the NBA players.
Did you?
Adam's ready to crack me on. What's that?
Tell Alexi we were doing this.
What? That they're at the Swan and Dolphin?
No, that you're the biggest Disney nerd we have on set. That the fact that you would know, you'd be the only person who would actually have that as inside information, and that the response would be the Dolphin and the Swan, like that, oh snap, I didn't know the donkey was taken. What happened to the Matador? The Matador wasn't an option. You were like, nah,
that's
they
a ride, buddy. That's not a
Swan
hotel.
Suite, son. Like, that's what we're doing
Listen,
today.
I thought they were going to put them up in the All-Star resorts, which is where they put all the kids, and it's
I'm
like
gonna
a
fight
crappy
you.
motel.
I'm
So
going.
glad that
I'm
they're in a
heading to
resort,
Callow Hill
man.
to fight you right now.
Dude,
I don't know if you know.
There's a great karaoke bar in that hotel, man. It's awesome.
Oh my lord!
Look. So
Before we lose our
Alexi,
guest. You know?
exactly. I am a person who tends to go on some rants occasionally, especially about things that don't matter. I think
Sure.
we've probably bumped my fusion minute this week because of the illustriousness of our guest, but that's fine. I understand that they'll be back next week on June 14th, but that's okay. Anyway. The fact of the matter is, sometimes Matt goes on the weirdest things in the universe, and Matt's Disney knowledge of just their parks, because he did a semester? Did a semester
Right.
down
College
there?
program, buddy. College program.
It is the most beautifully useless set of knowledge we've ever had, and now in all times it has come to play for some value to know what hotels MLS is stocking the players in during COVID. Thank
I'm
you.
going to have a restaurant guide just for Jim Curtin and the staff, just so they know where to go and where to avoid.
You just go
It's a nice
service.
place. It's a nice place.
Just send them to Epcot. They go to the Canadian place to get the steaks. They go to Mexico to get the tequila. That's how you round out your night. Come on now.
Yeah, they can't do drinking around the world, man. They're playing every day. So, Alexi, real quick though, as I would love to know what your opinion is of this schedule that they're on, as a player, B, wearing the GM hat or president hat, and C, as a fan. As a fan, we're thrilled. We're like, oh my God, we got a 9 a.m. game, we've got a 8 p.m. game, and a 10:30 game. But like, as a player, how would you feel about a month and a half, sequestered in a hotel, or even as a GM? Where does your mind go when you see something like this?
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes back to that ownership that we all take in this league. And look, even if you're looking at it from a self-preservation type of standpoint, you're doing something that is going to help this league in a time where this league needs help. And you guys mentioned the compare and contrast with other with other soccer leagues, but also with other sports that are coming online. This is a competition. And you want this league to be around for as long as possible to provide you employment opportunities, whether it's on the field or later on when you get done with it. So that's the way I would be looking at it, in that this is a responsibility and a duty. First and foremost, the safety has to be there. And there's certainly extenuating circumstances for individual players that they will deal with. But I also feel that collectively, there has to be an understanding that this is a duty well beyond to your team, but to your league. And in doing so, you are going to enable it in this moment of challenge and difficulty to at least survive. And that's what this is about, guys. This isn't about thriving, okay? This isn't about anymore celebrating the 25th year of MLS and patting ourselves on the back. This is about surviving and getting to do a 26th year. And I'm not saying that the league's going anywhere, but there is some real hurt that's coming down because of the situation that the world is in right now. And a league like MLS, they're gonna take a hit, and those opportunities are going to take a hit if you don't do everything you possibly can to push us along to get out of this, to get to whatever that new normal is. So that's the way that I would be looking. As far as the games, look, I would much rather play games than train. I hated training. I would have played games every single day. It's a little easier when you're a center back relative to a midfielder. I get that, but all I wanted to do is play games. The early morning game, I don't want to play the early morning game just because it's a very different type of system and schedule to be on. I remember in the '94 World Cup, we actually kicked off at 11 a.m. in the Pontiac Silverdome against Switzerland. And that was weird because you had to get up at 6 a.m. and then you had to eat really early, and it just threw you out of whack a little bit. And that was done for time, for the European time, actually, to go at a regular time. So, if you're going to whine and complain, and I'm not saying that they are, but I would not have a lot of time for you if you were whining and complaining. First off, recognize that you get to do something that most of the world, and the vast majority of the world, will never, ever get an opportunity to do, which is to be a professional athlete, okay? That you have to go down for a month, and that this had to be the best solution in a very, very difficult and challenging time, or the least bad solution, let's say. I mean, I think it's a small price to pay, to be quite honest.
Now, do you think there's a difference if, because I felt this with the NBA. If you were 65, well, I mean, let's be honest, 75 to 80% done your season, COVID hits, and you still haven't figured out a champion, you still got to figure this out, and they're doing their round robin tournament and all this. They dropped the bottom 8 teams because they were just like, there's no point for you. And I remember famously Damian Lillard saying, if I'm not competing for a championship, I don't know why I'm here. Like it just ultimately just being like, it just doesn't like if I don't know, and not to say he wouldn't do it because of like just arrogance. It was just like, I don't know why I'm risking putting myself into this situation if my team is not going to be able to compete for something that matters. You know, if I'm just here just to be fodder basically for the other teams that are in a playoff contention, why am I here? Do you think MLS would have something similar to that if the season was mostly completed? Like if we were doing this in September,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah. So, did you give an example? I don't know if you. There's that basketball
Yeah.
player up in Portland.
Damian
right? Was it
Lillard, yeah,
Portland?
he said that he was like, I don't completely like if I'm going to put myself at risk for this virus. Like if this virus is out here, they're saying there's a possibility, like all of this. If my team is not in a position to do something, like if we're not in a position to compete, if we're not in a position to win a championship, then I don't know why we're risking ourselves in this moment.
Yeah, to a certain extent, I can understand that, but I do think that there is a support part of it in that we are in this all together.
Yeah.
And just from a competitive side, if you don't have something to play for, in that you're not going to make the playoffs, I would have a problem with that probably as a player, okay, because you're out there that I have a potential to make the playoffs. Okay, I guess that's more of an incentive
Yeah.
for playing the games, but I don't know why that's more of an incentive for not supporting your fellow players. I'm not talking about players. Well, first off, players on the team that are going to go down there on your team, then the actual players within the league. And there's so much talk about unions and associations and the support and the collection and the organization that they have. Well, here's an opportunity for you to, in a way, show your support. Yeah, we're all going to go down and we're all going to do this. And I know I don't really have anything to play for, and I know I'm risking getting injured in a game that quote unquote doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
But guess what? It does mean something, and it should mean something. And so that's the way that I would look at it. And once again, if there's a legitimate medical issue, if you're compromised or you're higher risk, or even the situation where players are having babies and stuff like that, or have just had babies. Or if there's a million different things that you can come up with, but ultimately, I guess it comes down to, I'll call it sacrifice, but once again, let's be honest. Relative to the way that most people in the world are having to quote unquote sacrifice, and the things that they are doing to make a living and to go on in these difficult times, you got it easy.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Great. You know what? We're getting to the hour mark, so we're gonna wrap it up for everyone's time. So we're gonna do some editing, but I've got just two quick questions for you.
Okay.
I still got a question. Damn it.
Well, you can, of course.
Devin, get in there and get your questions. Matt has had like 7 questions.
Yeah, Matt's had enough
like,
questions.
Devin,
All right, guys,
Matt,
don't
take a powwow.
Devin, go ahead,
take 5.
Devin, you go, and then we're
Devin.
gonna see whose question's better. Go ahead.
Producer Devin,
okay.
let's go.
We'll see if this question's any better.
Finally, Devin. Boy.
Right.
All right.
Find your voice, my friend.
Now, we talked a lot today about like how you're obviously one of the big figures of American soccer over the course of your career, whether it be playing or GM or whatnot, and specifically over the past 10 or so years, we see massive growth of the American game and obviously MLS. And I mean, I think everybody would agree that going forward, the game's going to continue to grow. Now, my question is your opinion of where's the ceiling for not only MLS. I mean, we could say MLS. What's the ceiling for MLS? But also the ceiling for American soccer. Is it fathomable that one day, I'm not talking about next year or 5 years from now, but is it fathomable that one day American soccer is going to be competing with European soccer or on the same level? Maybe it might be 10 or 20 years from now, but is that there's such a roadblock, I think, in American sports, and I just want to see what your opinion is on that.
Okay, so my quick answer is yes, and the reason why is this. I talked about being in Italy, and I talked about it was the place to be, and yet we saw a complete change happen, and that migration that happened to England. And I don't need to tell you, they're not there for the food and the weather. Okay, so a migration like that can happen again. And that it could happen in North America, and obviously we talk about the United States, it makes it that much more appealing for players. If they're able to make as much and maybe even more money, if they are able to not lose anything in terms of the credibility, especially when it comes to the national team and the way that they are viewed, if they are able to be in a safe and an affluent type of environment for them and their family, and that they're comfortable on and off the field, all of that kind of stuff plays into a migration that could happen. Having said that, even if MLS and / soccer becomes the most popular thing in the United States, it's always going to be uniquely American because of our history that we have. And it's always going to be shaded with the unique background that we bring to it. And that's not something to fear. It's actually something that we can be proud of. We're going to make something that, and it doesn't mean that we poo-poo everything that happens anywhere else. Absolutely not. And there are best practices, and there's some wonderful things. One of the things that you guys can certainly attest to is what we've done is we've taken some of the best things from around the world and made our own type of soccer, our own type of supporters, all of that kind of stuff. So that's what it's going to be. Is it going to happen in my lifetime? Probably not. It might happen in your guys' lifetime. It might happen in the next 20 years. It might happen in the next 25 years. It might happen in the next 50 years. But it's not. Other sports are not going to go quietly, but it can happen. And I'll be excited if I'm around to see what it looks like. But as I said, it's always going to be an American version of the sport. And while a lot of people cringe when you say that, I look at it in the opposite way, in that we have the opportunity to remake the sport with all of the best things about America and North America when it comes to it. And who knows, if Liga MX comes into it, now we're talking, there's something big that resonates not just with the area, but resonates with the world. That could be something that a lot of people find very, very attractive.
Yep. Now, here's my question. You're going to see why I deal with the better questions.
All right.
Who's your favorite Cooligan?
My favorite Cooligan? Oh God, no! Come on, they're both great.
You're about to Sophie's Choice the Cooligans? Is this what we're doing here?
Yeah. See, we go all over the place, man. But no,
God.
I guess my only other real question is, how bad do you think Arsenal sucks? Because I read your Wikipedia page, so I know.
No, I have nothing against Arsenal. I had a tryout back before I was anybody. I was over there for 3 weeks or something like that. I remember running the stairs with Tony Adams at Old Highbury. I remember Ian Wright and Paul Merson and Tony Adams picking me up at the hotel, taking me to training, and then after training taking me to what would amount to like a Bennigan's or a TGIF type of thing, because they were, I'll never forget, they were infatuated with tater skins. This phenomenon of tater skins. It's such random memories I have from the past. So these are the things that I remember. They were so excited to get these potatoes, half potato skins or whatever brought to the bar that we were sitting at. I'll never forget that. I don't remember a lot of other things, but I remember that. Yeah, Arsenal. I mean, look. Arsenal is not the Arsenal that it once was. Will it be at some point? No, but we've seen teams like Milan, AC Milan. We've seen teams like Arsenal that have been at this height and have been unable to consistently stay there. And that's the trick for super clubs out there, right? Is to maintain that relevance and that level of quality, and it's difficult. Manchester United, right? We've seen them go through this incredible dip, and I don't know if they're going to come out of it.
Now, and you're talking to Adam and I are Chelsea fans, and poor Devin is
Okay.
a fan of the Hotspurs of Tottenham. So we have a lot of banter about that.
The only thing we can agree on.
Yes.
What, the Tottenham sucks or Arsenal sucks?
Well, you got to be happy about Timo Werner. Then that prospect. I mean, that gives you another.
Oh no, the best part about that whole thing for me was like the closest bar to where I used to live was a Tottenham Hotspur bar. So I would go in there and watch Chelsea games on like my phone because I didn't like the Chelsea bar in town. So I would just literally just go to them and just be like, I'm gonna sit in the back, I'm gonna be quiet, I'm not gonna bother any of you guys, but I'm just gonna watch my game over here. And it's like when they got with their the transfer freeze, and they were like, okay, you guys cannot, you're being corrupt more than usual now. We got to do something about this. They were all like, nothing's gonna be good for you, and Tottenham was about to be in the Champions League final, so like this was all culminating in like, we feel great about ourselves. Let's just take the biggest dump on you and all of your feelings. And I'm just like, you know what? That's fair. Like, I'm not even gonna sit here and pretend like it's not warranted in this great moment. But then they lose the game at They lose versus Liverpool, and then they win the Audi Cup. And then nothing positive happens to Tottenham for the rest of the season, and they get Jose Mourinho, and I just sit and laugh and laugh and laugh, and then we go get what's his face from Ajax, and we pick up Tino Werner, and I'm just like, and I continue to laugh and laugh, and it's been a weird time to be a Chelsea fan, because you're just like, oh, our kids are fun too. Look at Tammy. Look at Mason Mount the couple times that he doesn't go completely bonkers. And when we can get Pulisic on the field, our kids are fun too. But that's been a weird year and a half being a Chelsea fan. I won't lie.
Well, I mean, it's really going to be interesting to see, how we view these teams as they come back in these, obviously very unique settings without fans. And we've seen the data already from the Bundesliga in terms of pretty much the demise of the home field advantage, and if that's going to carry on, and how we're going to look at them, and will your Chelsea team, or will your Spurs team, or will Arsenal actually function better in this type of environment, or worse? Are there other teams that are going to come up? And then, is that fair? Are we judging them in such a sterile and different environment that that's not really who they are? And yet you have to give teams credit that are able to adapt and to adjust. And this goes for down in Orlando too. Figure it out. All right, everybody's in the same boat. Figure it out. And the best ones that are able to adjust and be flexible and deal with the situation, I think they do deserve credit. And I think they do deserve praise. And I think it's fair to hold players and teams accountable, even though it's a unique situation, because you got to be able to function, and everybody else is having to do it.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest lesson of this for me, for this pandemic, has been the ability to pivot personally in your life, professionally in your life, for sports teams, for the small businesses, bars that are just doing takeout. You got to learn how to pivot during this time. So there's, and you have to be accountable for your actions. So yeah, I totally agree. Devin, do we have any housekeeping left?
One last thing, I'm going to do the old Netflix thing here.
Uh-oh.
If you liked this podcast, you may also like another podcast that Mr. Alexi Lalas is on. And I'll let you go ahead and plug that there.
The State of the Union podcast, you can find that on Spotify and YouTube and Apple Pods and all that kind of stuff out there. All the podcast platforms out there. I do it with my good friend David Mossy, a Fox Soccer and researcher and writer extraordinaire, and a savant when it comes to a lot of things. He knows so much more than I do, and it's just a pleasure to do that each and every week. You can check that out, and continue to see my work. We have a weekly magazine over at Fox with myself and Stu Holden and Rob Stone called Inside Soccer, and we talk to different people once a week. So we're still throwing stuff out there, and we still do stuff. You mentioned the Bundesliga, which is back online, and then we'll find out here pretty soon what we're going to do when it comes to this new MLS tournament down in Orlando. So a lot of stuff to look forward to, and I know it's difficult for everybody out there, and we're muddling through as best as we possibly can. I hope everybody is staying safe and sane in these crazy times. And I want to thank all of you guys for inviting me on and letting me babble on about different things. It was fun and entertaining and interesting for me.
Man, thank you so much, and I stick to my statement in the very top of the show where you truly are an American treasure.
Oh man,
So,
that's
thank you very much,
praise.
and guys,
or scraping the bottom of the barrel.
oh, we've scraped way below this. Don't worry, but guys, stay safe out there, and remember, wash your hands.
Bye now.
See y'all.